I'm Sergeant Betsy Hornstein, and I work for the Portland Police Bureau Traffic Division. Betsy is B-E-T-S-Y, Hornstein is H-O-R-N-S-T-E-I-N.
And then Betsy, when you're talking, why don't you just look at Julia in the middle there?
Okay, perfect.
So we're coming off of a very deadly night in Portland, unfortunately. What are you able to tell us about what happened yesterday evening?
Yesterday evening, we did have 3 fatal crashes that occurred in East Portland. All 3 of them did happen to occur within one district, and that would be what we call 940s. And they all happened they all included vulnerable road users. So,
what would you describe as a vulnerable road user?
Vulnerable road user would be somebody that's on foot, a pedestrian, a bicyclist, a wheelchair user, somebody who's not in a protected car or anything of that sort.
Can you walk us through each incident?
I actually don't have all the specific details of all these incidents, so I can't answer that.
Are you able to say where each happened generally, like cross streets?
Yes, so one of them did occur at about 122nd and Gleason. Another one happened also on Gleason, a little bit further west of that same intersection. And then the third crash happened on 102nd.
Were any of these alcohol related, or was it just not following traffic laws, or do you know?
The cause of those details still remain to be seen, so I can't answer that right now.
But at least 2 of the drivers remained on scene and were cooperative. Was the third as well?
Yes.
And what factors might have led to this? I know in our email thread, you guys were speaking about, the sun is going down earlier, so maybe light or darkness is contributing to people's awareness.
So this time of year, with the weather changing and the loss of more light during our day, we do tend to see an uptick in crashes. And that would be due to the poor lighting conditions. There can be weather factors such as rain. We're getting more leaves on the ground, and so the roadways are slicker. So all of those factors can contribute to that, to crashes.
3 in one night seems pretty high. Is this out of the norm? How would you describe it?
That is out of the norm. 3 crashes in one night is a lot, especially in such close proximity to each other and within such a short time frame. So we don't see this many crashes in that small of a time frame very often.
Are you able to speak to maybe where the pedestrians or the bicyclists, the vulnerable road users were? Were they like crossing the street? Were they on the side of the road or on the sidewalks?
I do not know the specifics of where the road users were at. I'm going to mute that, sorry.
Yeah.
Thought
Betsy,
it was muted.
You're on the major crash team. You go to a lot of these. Could you just tell them about your experiences?
So I've been a member of the major crash team for several years, both as an officer and as a sergeant. And so my role now as a sergeant, we do have to deliver the unfortunate news to the loved ones of these individuals who lose their lives in these crashes. And so that's really one of the hardest parts of this job. And, a fatal crash is something that's unpredicted. Most people are expecting their loved ones to come home. They're not expecting that knock on the door in the middle of the night with 2 police officers standing there saying, "I'm sorry, your loved one is no longer with us anymore." And so it brings it home for a lot of people, and for those of us on the major crash team, and having to deal with these family members and help them now, come to this realization that, their world has been turned upside down. And so that is a big factor of what we're dealing with. And yeah.
Tomorrow's Halloween, a lot of kids going to be out, a lot of people going to be walking around. What do you want to say to drivers that see this story?
I would ask drivers to really slow down. You know, it may be clear, it may be rainy, but there are going to be a lot of children out, and it will be dark, and a lot of costumes are dark. People are harder to see. Sometimes kids, they move fast because they're having a great time and they're trick-or-treating, and they aren't as aware of the dangers of being out and crossing the streets. So please take the time to slow down and just take a second look for those who are out trick-or-treating.
3, this probably has to up the numbers pretty big in Portland. How would you say this year's been as far as pedestrian fatalities compared to previous years, even if you don't know the exact number?
I don't have the exact number. I do know that we are seeing fewer pedestrian fatalities this year as compared to last year, though.
So what can pedestrians do to protect themselves when they're out this weekend on Halloween?
Pedestrians can wear high visibility clothing, so especially when it's dark out, if they wear a bright color or a vest, have a light with them, something that helps them stand out a bit more, that will help road or drivers see them. And then also I would recommend that before crossing the street, take a second look yourself, because there may be the driver that just did not see you, and it's worth just taking a couple extra seconds to make sure it's safe to cross the street.
Another thing you mentioned that's striking is that these 3 crashes yesterday evening happened in the same district. Are there any road factors, here on the east side that contribute to crashes like that? I know off of Gleason there's several marked high crash intersections.
So all these crashes did take place on our high crash corridor streets. I can't really speak as to what any factors are in the road or roadway designs that, if they did play a factor. A lot of these crashes are still in the very beginning stages of the investigation.
But it's fair to say there's no known connection between these, right?
Yes, it's fair to say that there is no connection between these 3 crashes.
That's all I have.
I know. What about daylight savings? Can you just talk about how that affects safety as well?
So with daylight savings, obviously we're rolling back the clocks, and so we're going to get a little bit more light on the front end, but on the back end of the day, we are going to be losing light. So it's going to be getting darker earlier, and this is where I would ask drivers to please slow down, take a second look at where you're going. If you're going to make a turn, just be more heads up, and that could, any of those split seconds can help save a life there.
Maybe talk a little bit about sort of the shared responsibility. I mean, we have many different types of road users, with pedestrians, bicyclists, motorcyclists. Talk about everybody's responsibility when it comes to road safety.
So with regards to road safety, it's everyone's responsibility to make our community safer. So we'd ask that drivers, motorcyclists, anyone operating a vehicle that has an engine and is in those lanes of traffic, they pay attention and follow those traffic laws that are out there, such as speed, the stoplights, the stop signs, any of the turning rules of the road. And with the vulnerable road users, the same. So please don't cross against the cross signals. If there is a marked crosswalk, please use that. Those are there to help make you more visible and cross the roads a lot just safer. And so again, this goes to taking a little bit of extra time and making sure that the road is safe. So if you're a pedestrian, make sure the car is actually stopped. if you have the right of way, sometimes cars just don't stop because they don't see you. So just ensure that it is actually safe to cross the street.
And remind folks that we will have cops working this weekend, right? They can expect to see patrols?
Yes, we can expect to see our traffic division out and patrolling as usual. This is part of their normal shift. They will be out doing traffic enforcement and looking for any dangerous driving behavior.
We haven't really talked about impairment either, and I mean, I think that's one of the things that we see as a common denominator in many of these, that there is some level of impairment. Can you speak to impairment as a factor in your experiences?
Impairment does play a large factor in a lot of crashes that we see. They may not be as extreme as to a fatal crash. However, it's still driving impaired makes everyone on the road, or it just makes it a lot more risky for everyone. So when you get behind the wheel after consuming, and whether it's alcohol or marijuana or any other substance that affects your ability to drive, you put everyone else that is in the public at risk, whether they are in a car or a pedestrian or a bicyclist. There's plenty of ways to get home and get where you need to be safely. That does not include driving while you're impaired. There's ride shares, you can walk, you can also become a pedestrian yourself after consuming these impairing substances, or even just phoning a friend.
I wanted to ask too about what we talked about before with regard to patrols. Traffic division is a lot smaller than it used to be. We don't have a ton of resources, but how do you as a sergeant prioritize enforcement? What do you tell your teams to look for when they're doing enforcement?
So we're looking for the dangerous driving behaviors. A big common factor is speed. So speed contributes to a lot of crashes. Distracted driving contributes to a lot of crashes. And I encourage officers to focus on areas, especially on these holidays where we know people tend to drink a lot more. Focus their efforts in those areas to prevent the drinking and driving, or if somebody does get behind the wheel, to stop them as soon as they can before they can hurt somebody.